Hello everyone, today I am talking to Claire. We're continuing our series about what happens to families who are stranded during COVID. And hello Claire, we've been having a little chat beforehand, but Claire set off travelling from the UK with her family in the beginning of January. And then obviously lockdown happened and you couldn't really go home anyway, could you, back to the UK, because you'd rented your house out for a year, is that right?
That's right. Yeah, if we'd have gone home, we had this chat several times, but if we'd have gone home, we would have been going back to nothing anyway. We'd given up our jobs, so we couldn't go back and earn money. We had nowhere to live. Our tenant's there till the 1st of January next year. So we'd be in a similar position at home, just frantically trying to find somewhere to stay, all while trying to self-quarantine and, you know, trying to make plans to get settled at home again. So it wasn't ever really going to work going home, to be honest.
So you were in Vietnam, is that right, when you found out that everything was going to come to pretty much a halt?
No, the plan was to go to Vietnam. We'd been in Cambodia for a couple of weeks. We'd been in Siem Reap, and then just as we were leaving Siem Reap to travel to Phnom Penh, we heard a few mutterings about they're starting to close schools and things are starting to close down in Cambodia. And we just decided that Cambodia wasn't really a place that, if borders were going to close, we just didn't really feel like Cambodia was the sort of place we wanted to be. We felt like we wanted to be somewhere perhaps where there was a healthcare system that had slightly stronger infrastructure. We didn't want to be a burden. We're a family of 7, so, you know, we're aware that we're a burden wherever we go. So we decided, Vietnam was on the plan anyway, so we said, let's head to the embassy, the Vietnamese embassy in Phnom Penh, get our visas for Vietnam. That was always the plan, a 3-month visa. And then as I arrived on the day, I think it was the 11th of March or the 12th of March, we got there and there was just this eerie silence and people just milling around, and there was just no business of getting visas going on. And we sort of deciphered many of the signs. And basically the message was just, you're not coming to Vietnam, even if you have your, you know, medical certificate, even if you've got your visa signed, even if you've got all your money, we're not taking you. And I'm ringing people going, is this right? Because you've got plans to go to Vietnam. Or are they letting people in there going, yeah, it'll be fine, sweetheart. Just, you know, crack on, do it online, it'll be fine. And they all just said no. And funnily enough, I spoke to a lady there. We just got chatting. We were both a bit like, we were the only English faces. So we had a bit of a chat going, what should we do? What should we do? And she suggested that I join this travel group because she said, lots of great advice, lots of great tips. So go and join that. That's the first thing you do. And then she'd said, well, if you can't get into Vietnam, we've just come from Chiang Island in Malaysia. And she raved about that for about 10 minutes. And I went, okay, if we can't get to Vietnam for now, assuming this was just going to be temporary, of course, a week or two, it'll be fine, it'll blow over. So we decided to try heading for Malaysia, and just got in really easily. It was really the opposite to Vietnam. They just went, have a 90-day visa for free, come on in, you know, and they just welcomed us in. So we just thought, we'll just lie low here for a few weeks, head down to Tiamen, had a nice few days in Kuala Lumpur, and then came down here. And then the exact same thing happened here. On the day we went to get the ferry to Tiamen Island, that's sort of 2 hours off the coast, they just went, no, we're locking down the country, no ferries, no hotels, nothing. Either go home now or be stranded here indefinitely. So that was kind of a day or two of back and forth. Do we try and go home? We can't, there's no house. So they're looking at flights. And then we just went, feels like the only option really is to stay. We found this really lovely house right by the beach. It's a private beach. So even when they started getting more strict with things like, you know, you can't go out, you can't take your exercise, you can't sit on the beach, you can walk, it didn't really apply to us because, you know, the beach is our own private beach anyway. So the longer we stayed here, because in the back of our minds, it was always, let's just try another week. And if it doesn't work, we'll go home. Let's just try another week. And actually, you know, we're 8 weeks. We've got the beach, we've got the weather, our money's going a lot further here. And the same if we went home, actually. We still haven't got anywhere to live. We still have to, you know, self-quarantine. We still have to do all of those things. So why would we risk the health of our children and ourselves? Because it would be, you know, the drive to the airport, it would be a busy airport, it would be a 14-hour flight back to another busy airport, trying to get back to somewhere we could rent. And it just feels like we'd be gambling a lot for the sake of just, you know, being home. So it just, it makes so much sense, really.
And like you say, your money does go a lot further there. And did you find it hard to find something to rent? I mean, 7 of you, that's quite a big family to find accommodation for long term.
It was just, I don't know, it was one of those things, it felt like it was meant to be. My husband and a few of the older children went out for the day, sort of scouting around for the options, while I stayed home with the younger ones, just frantically drinking coffee and Googling flights and everything else I could think of. And he just came back and he said, oh, and one of the things we noticed about Malaysians, and you'll know you spent time in Malaysia, is everybody is incredibly friendly. Everybody wants to help. There's like a genuine desire. People just stop us on the side of the road and go, can we give you a lift? Are you going somewhere? We're like, no, we're just out for a walk, it's fine. Or, you know, we've had crazy stories of people turning up with like a week's worth of shopping or a pack of nappies or baby clothes or food. You know, people are incredibly helpful here, genuinely. So a guy just said to my husband, I know someone that owns a house, a beach house down the road. Do you want to go and look at it? My husband goes, okay, I'll get in a car with a strange man and go and look at a house. That seems fine. Yeah, we came back and we were like,
here you are.
It's perfect. Yeah, it ticked every box. So it felt a bit too good to be true.
Pan your camera around just to show everybody your beach, your private beach. I mean, it's dark, but
it's dark now. It's late at night.
Look,
so,
there's sand.
Yeah, that's it. That's the bit. Walk down to the beach. Even the 4-year-olds, we've got 4-year-old twins, and even they are just sort of happy and secure enough just to walk down to the beach and walk back if one of us is here. And they go, I'm just popping back to get a drink. So that sort of shows you just sort of how lovely and close and safe it is, really.
That is lovely. Well, I have to say, I would love to be stranded over there as well with you.
It's not too bad. It's not too bad. The more we hear about things at home and the more we see on the news, the more we're like, I think we really did the right thing.
I think you've made the right choice. But you must have been planning this trip for was it a years in the planning?
Oh gosh, it's probably been about 4 or 5 years in the planning, because about a year and a half into the planning, we got the news that I was pregnant with our 5th child, our surprise baby, our cherry on the top, we call him. So that put things back a year or two. We just went, should we not go with 4 children and a newborn, given that we already had 2-year-old twins, and just thought, you know, there are limits, aren't there, to sanity and things.
Yeah.
So let's have the new baby, let's get a bit of sleep, and, you know, if we still really, really are keen to go, then we'll do it. And by the time Brody was about 4 months old, we both kind of looked at each other and we were like, we're still doing this, aren't we? So we were like, yep. So then we kind of cracked on with the plan. So that's why it took so long. So we had a bit of a gap in between of, you know, just being pregnant and having a baby. And then it all kind of moved from there. So yeah, I think we booked the tickets about 9 months before we went. And then it was that countdown of kind of decluttering and, you know, sorting out the house and just going through that massive to-do list of everything that you need to do before you leave, which is just, yeah, it's ridiculous, isn't it?
I guess no one really knows what's going to happen, and every country is treating this very differently. So, I mean, are you going to be able to stay out there longer term? Are you still going to continue your travels as soon as everything opens up?
Well, this is a conversation we have nightly when we sit on the balcony and we have our cup of tea and we're like, right, okay, what do we think? So one day we'll be saying, look, do you know what? We might just need to go home, because again, you know, if we're stuck in a country and we can't travel around, we can't see it, we're only, you know, we're not helping the world's problems by dragging our 5 children around and potentially spreading the virus around. We're burning through a budget that we're not using to see the world. You know, at what point do we say, let's just cut our losses and go home? So then we go, yeah, okay. And then another day we're like, if we can just get into one more country, you know, if we can just go that step further. We were saying earlier, countries like Australia and New Zealand are starting to open up again. You know, actually there's a very real need. There will be a very real need to sort of for countries to boost their travel and tourism industry again. You know, we know personally lots of local businesses and people that are desperate to get back open because they just have to earn money. You know, they're not getting lots of people aren't getting a lot of government subsidies. So actually, you know, travel and tourism, that's how they make their living. That's literally how they eat. So, you know, we're thinking, if things do start to open up and we can travel again and we feel like it's safe to travel again, then we'd really like to sort of press on at some point. But again, you know, that changes. One minute we're thinking Australia and New Zealand is looking really likely, and then we hear actually Australia aren't going to open their borders until 2021. So like, that might be out. You know, potentially we could travel up through Malaysia and cross the border into Thailand, because we've spent some time in Thailand before. You know, so we feel quite comfortable in Thailand. We know our way around a bit. So if we're able to do that, if they're relaxing the land borders, then that's another way that we can sort of explore, you know. And then obviously there are other countries to the north and south, west of that. So it's just such a movable feast at the moment. We're just, you know, we can't set anything in stone. We have parents constantly are like, what are you doing? Are you coming home? You know, where are you going to be?
I do.
And it's so hard.
I do think that sometimes, and this is in a totally different travel scenario, where sometimes people have got travel fatigue and they have that conversation where they think, should we go home? And actually, when they get back, they wish that they'd stayed where they were, because you have the same problem, but actually you've got the big expense in the UK. And the costs. So you're probably better doing what you're doing, playing it by ear, and then
that's what we think is having to be flexible, isn't it? And it's a skill that I'm learning. I'm more of a planner than a fly by the seat of my pants kind of a gal. My husband's like, well, let's just see what happens, you know, tomorrow's another day. And I'm like, I need to know, it's stressing me out. But we had a friend who was traveling around the same time as us. I mean, she was younger and she's single, and she had a different situation to us, but we were having lots of conversations about, what do we do? Do you want to come and join up with us? And she did eventually go home, and within about 11 minutes of being back in the UK, she was like, you did the right thing, stay away, don't come home, this is hell. So I like to call her now and again, like, Abby, remind me, like, Claire, do not come home, don't come home. No. Because you said, you know, you've got all the same problems. Even if we had sort of family at home that perhaps got sick or whatever, we'd still be limited. We couldn't see people at home, you know, you've still got the same problems, and yet we'd be homeless, and we'd have to be spending an awful lot more money than we're spending now. So, you know, there's nothing really that's desperately dragging us home again, to be honest.
But can you stay longer than the year? I mean, once it gets to January next year, is that cut-off point anyway?
I mean, there's nothing specifically requiring us to go home. I left my job completely entirely. There was no kind of sabbatical or anything. And my husband owns his own business, so he's got flexibility in terms of when he goes home, if he goes home, that sort of thing. So we don't have to be home on the 1st of January. It's just a case of, you know, whatever opportunities present themselves, whatever countries we can get to and that we enjoy, and just how long our budget lasts, really. We've got an option to extend the budget if we kind of sell property at home, but we don't necessarily want to do that. So again, it's just more options, really. But yeah, everything's just really up in the air.
Keeping nimble, I think that's what it is, isn't it? Just keeping nimble and going with the flow.
Yeah, go with the flow. That's what I'm great. It's going to go on my husband's gravestone. Just go with the flow. It's fine.
So I was going to ask you, what are the positives that you can take away from this scenario? I mean, there must be some, like we were talking earlier, and I think you actually mentioned it earlier in the video about the kindness of people, the local people close to you. So that's probably one positive, isn't it? Just to be integrated into a smaller local community.
Absolutely, and that's something we perhaps didn't really do too much of in the other countries we'd visited, because we sort of pass on through, and we're very aware that we've got 5 children. They're quite noisy because, you know, they're very children. So we're always very aware of our impact on the local environment and locals, and not, you know, in Asia, everybody loves children, everybody loves our children, but we're just very aware that we don't want to kind of encroach. But here we've had to encroach. We've had to say, can you take us to the nearest shop because we don't have a car, you know? And the guy who rents us his house, we've kind of spent a lot of time with him and his family. We've become really involved in Ramadan and lots of Ramadan celebrations and Raya. We're learning all about customs and cultures. They've done cooking schools for us, so we make a mean nasi goreng at the moment, my husband and I. Absolutely. They're helping our children make some traditional costumes to wear for Raya, so we're going to have celebrations and fireworks and food. So in terms of kind of genuinely soaking up a culture, which we thought we were doing in other countries, but it was more kind of tick the box, eat at a, you know, street food stall or whatever. Here we genuinely feel like we're kind of meeting families, we're spending time together, and really sort of getting to know a country really quite well, rather than sort of on the surface you know, if you're just sort of ticking along and moving on through. So that, and we only spoke to the older children about that yesterday. We just said, look, if we hadn't have been caught here during this time, if we'd have just gone home or whatever, so much of what we've learned and so many of our high points they just wouldn't have happened. It just wouldn't have occurred. You know, we've been here, this is the longest we've been anywhere for such a long time, 8 weeks, you know, and it's crazy to think that we've been here for such a long time, but we put down roots. You know, we've got kind of local friends, you know, we see, hi Auntie Sue, when we go to the shop, we have a little chat in Malay, and you know, she loves the shy one. So cute. The kids are learning it, even the twins, the 4-year-olds, even they're kind of learning to count to 20 in Malay, and they kind of order their ice creams in quite a basic way. But I just, you know, it's great. It's all stuff I think they're really going to remember. So there's been so many positives. Yeah, absolutely.
That's so good, actually, turning something that could have been a really bad situation to something so positive. And actually, like you say, it's probably going to be for the kids, especially the younger ones, their memories aren't that great, are they, at that age? But this is going to really stick in their mind.
I think so, and I think hindsight's a wonderful thing, because you're going to forget the days where you sat there and went, oh gosh, we're a bit bored. I said, guarantee when we're looking back on this time, we'll be like, do you remember when we were locked down in Malaysia for 3 months? Do you remember Auntie Sue? Do you remember the beach right next door? Do you remember the cooking schools? Do you remember Raya? Do you remember Ramadan? So I'm, hindsight's great like that, isn't it? And I just think they're going to look back on this time so fondly, probably more so than, trekking through Angkor Wat and all those other things. I think there's a lot to be said for just the really simple, quiet pleasures in life. And I think we're just getting it now. So we're just going to soak it all up for as long as we can, really.
Definitely. Well, you have to keep us updated. I want to see photos of all of you.
Definitely will. I'll ping you some. Definitely will.
Yeah. Over. And keep us updated. Post in the group. Let us know what you're doing.
Yes, will do. Definitely, Susie.
Lovely to speak to you.
Yeah, you too. Thanks very much. Take care.